Treasurer, given that you say these numbers this morning show that the interest rate rises are starting to bite, given that those numbers are not a surprise, was it therefore, in your view, a mistake for the RBA to increase rates yesterday?
Well, obviously, as the Treasurer, I don't preempt and I don't second guess decisions taken independently by the Reserve Bank and its board. The Reserve Bank's got a job to do and I've got a different job to do, and you'll see in the budget how I'm going about that job. The point that I made yesterday and the point that I'm happy to make again today is when Australians are under the pump, I think many people will find it difficult to understand and difficult to cop the decision that was taken independently yesterday. And as we saw today, the Governor has opportunities, as he took today, and that's a good thing, to explain and defend the decisions that the board takes independently. So that's important. I also wanted to make clear yesterday, and I want to make clear again today, that ordinary working people in this country are already bearing the brunt of these rate rises. They shouldn't also bear the blame for them. And I was pleased to see, frankly, the Reserve Bank Governor acknowledge today that the important increase to the minimum wage is not what is pushing up interest rates in his estimation, nor is it in my estimation. You know, we don't have an inflation problem in our economy because people on the minimum wage are getting paid too much. I think that's important as well. And I think it's self-evident, frankly, that another interest rate rise yesterday will make life harder for people who are already under the pump. Beyond that, I cherish and respect the independence of the Reserve Bank, not just in my words but in my deeds. The reforms to the Reserve Bank that I want to put through the Parliament are actually about making the Reserve Bank more independent, not less, because I think it's an important feature of our system. That's why I don't preempt or second-guess decisions that they take. The points that I'm making about the decision taken yesterday, I think, are thoroughly uncontroversial.
How committed are you to bringing inflation back to that 2 to 3% band by the end of 2025, as is the RBA's aim?
Well, inflation was the defining influence on the budget, and it's the primary focus of our economic plan in at least three ways. You know, the spending restraint that we showed in the budget would be unrecognisable to our predecessors. You know, banking 87% over two budgets of the upward revision to revenue, finding $40 billion in savings, and trying to keep spending to where it was, providing some cost of living relief without adding to inflation, and investing in productivity and growth into the future. And so a very responsible budget, I think, more responsible than any of the budgets handed down by our predecessors in the circumstances, is a demonstration of our bona fides when it comes to fighting inflation and addressing the inflation challenge in our economy. Now, this is why the Reserve Bank Governor said last week and again today that the budget's not adding to inflation, it's taking pressure off inflation, and that's been our objective.
Is it making people too much, though? Do you think that there could be some wiggle room in that end of 2025 aim that the RBA is pushing for?
What do you mean by wriggle room?
Would you be supportive of them potentially extending that, taking until 2026 to bring inflation back into the band?
Oh, again, you mean I don't second guess the decisions taken by the Reserve Bank. I mean, clearly, we have the same objective when it comes to getting on top of this inflation challenge as soon as we can. I think the Reserve Bank Governor acknowledged that as well. You know, we all want to see inflation moderate as quickly as it can, and we need to balance that against all of our other objectives at the same time. I mean, this inflation is more persistent than any of us would like. This inflation will hang around higher than we'd like for longer than we'd like. That's why fighting inflation was a central feature of the budget and the central feature of our economic plan more broadly.
Treasurer, isn't it aren't you being a bit fancy with your words here, a bit tricky with your words?
Nobody's ever accused me of being fancy.
So tricky with your words, Treasurer, because whilst you're not offering any criticism yourself of the RBA's decision yesterday, you're absolutely validating other people's criticism by saying many people will find it difficult to cop, and you're saying that the Reserve Bank needs to defend its decision. So aren't you implying that it was a mistake without saying it was a mistake?
No, I think you're reading too much into that, and let me tell you why. I think it's self-evident that people are under the pump. You know, you walk down the main street of any of our cities, towns or suburbs or out in the bush and you understand that A lot of people are doing it tough, and we see that in the national accounts figures today as well. I think that's self-evident and therefore uncontroversial to point out that when interest rates go up, it makes life harder for people. I think that's a fact. When it comes to explaining the decisions that they take independently as a Reserve Bank board, I think that's a key feature of the system as well. I think it's a good thing, frankly, that Governor Lowe made himself available today for some public commentary about the decision that he took yesterday. And if you look at the Reserve Bank review, a big part of the conclusions of that review, which I support, is that the Reserve Bank and its board, Governor and its board needs to do that so that people understand where they're coming from. That's an important part of the feature of the system as well. I recognise that the Reserve Bank Governor's got a job to do. My job is different. My job is to try and address this inflation challenge in other ways by showing spending restraint, by making sure cost of living relief doesn't add to inflation, by investing in the supply side of the economy. I take responsibility for all of that, as I have over 2 budgets now. The Reserve Bank Governor's got a different job to do, and he has the capacity and the opportunity to explain and defend how he goes about it. I might just take 2 more because I told Minister Wells that I would be finished by the time she stood up at the press club.
Just on productivity, to what extent do you think working from home is contributing to this productivity side?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, I haven't seen any kind of convincing or compelling data about that. I think a lot.
Tell people to get back to work.
Well, I think a lot of people would feel like they're more productive at home. Certainly, there have been times during the last couple of years where I've felt that, and I'm sure others have as well if they've got the capacity to work from home. I think most people are trying to work some kind of combination of working from home or going into their usual workplace. That's not true of everyone. We've got a productivity challenge in our economy which predated work from home, and that's why such a big part of our economic agenda is investing in productivity, not by trying to make people work longer for less, but by investing in their skills and their capacity to adopt and adapt technology and to get the energy mix right in our economy. If we do those things, we can shift the needle on productivity, but it won't happen quickly. This challenge has been developing in our economy for some time. It'll take some time to turn it around as well, and I'm sure that there are more factors at play than just work from home. Last one.
You said there's been a moderation in growth, just 0.2% in the March quarter. Does that indicate that this current quarter could very likely be negative growth?
Well, I'm not going to make predictions about the June quarter. I think it's really clear that a combination of higher interest rates, cost of living pressures and global uncertainty is weighing on growth in our economy, and we anticipated that in the budget. The Treasury forecasts reflect that, and what we're seeing today is quite consistent with the Treasury forecasts for the economy around now. We've said for some time that we expect the economy to slow throughout the course of the next 12 to 18 months for all of the reasons that I've identified. I think that will continue to be the case as these higher interest rates in particular bite in our economy.